Okay, we learned XYR ratios in grade 11 to do trig values. So this is some of the ideas we had in grade 11. Cosine is x over r. Okay, so x, this would be the radius. So x is always horizontal, y is always vertical, right? And a radius is a radius of a circle, so it's always the hypotenuse part. Okay, and then if this is the angle that I'm talking about, then this is the adjacent, and this is opposite. Okay, so there's kind of two ways to think about it. X horizontal, y vertical, and a radius of a circle. Or the other way is to think about it adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. So the cosine of an angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So in this language, x over r. Okay, do you remember that? So these formulas I gave you in grade 11. In grade 12, you have to have them memorized. You have to have them memorized. So here's what I have as a little acronym. So you're really cute, X-rated, thank you, excellent. Remember that from last year? So what does it mean? I go like this. So you're really cute. So there's my cosine. X-rated. Thank you. Excellent. If you forget, what do you go back to? SOHCAHTOA, right? You can always get your foundation with using SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so you're really cute, X-rated, thank you, excellent is just to quickly do the formulas, but the foundation of it is really that SOHCAHTOA stuff. Okay, also we're going to learn 3 new functions this year. So cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. So it's the flip of the sine. So if we wanted to flip sine, that would be r over y. And secant is the flip of cosine. So I'm flipping cosine. So if I wrote that, it would be r over x. So I'm just flipping the ones from above, right? You see what I'm doing here? Taking cosine and flipping their letters, reciprocating that. And then cotangent is the flip of tangent. Okay, I personally get frustrated with this because cosecant and sine, that doesn't really make sense to me. Cotangent and tangent, boom, that makes sense, right? So here's what I always do to remember this. The S and the C words. Do you see it? S and C, S and C. They go opposite of what my brain, they don't match up, right? Cosecant and sine. Okay, so you got that? The C letter goes with the S letter. The S letter goes with the C one. Okay, so grade 11 question. We have an angle that goes through the coordinate 5, -12. So where is 5, -12? Draw a coordinate in which quadrant? Do you remember this quadrant number? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're in quadrant 4. Do you remember something called Astica? Astica. This is in a C quadrant then, right? What do I know about my trig values? Because it's a C quadrant. What does that tell me again? Cosine's positive. And what else then would I know? If cos is positive, what else? What are all the other things doing? Sine and tan are negative, okay? Okay, so we're going to go 5, negative 12. Can you get me a radius on that circle? What do I always say about this trig stuff with negatives? Don't include negatives in your math. Put the negatives in its location stuff, right? So I would just be doing 5 squared plus 12 squared. Okay, I'm not doing negative 12 squared because I don't need that part of it. Can you get me a hypotenuse here? Square root, right? You're going to be square rooting it with the Pythagorean. Okay, all 3 trig ratios. So there's my, so you're really cute, thank you, x-rated. I'm going to do sine, cos, tan, fraction, fraction, fraction. Do you want me to label these here? This would be a horizontal x, vertical y, and the radius. No matter what, the radius is a positive value. You can never have a negative radius value, okay? Okay, so fill in. So you're really cute. Now I need you to give me a x-rated. Thank. And then I need a you. Excellent. Okay. Now I asked you about Astica before. We didn't use it, but does our connections work? Is cosine a positive number? And our sine and tan negative values. Yep. Okay, and that's with Astica, right? It all ties together. Okay, here we go. Quadrant 2. We have an angle in quadrant 2. So can you draw me an angle in quadrant 2? And can you make a right triangle? Okay, I told you this. I told you the cos trig value was a negative 3 over a 5. That was given. Where does that go on my triangle? So which letters is the 3 part on and the 5 part on? So you're really cute. X rated. Okay, so let's talk about putting the negative 3 somewhere. That's x on the horizontal side. And then the 5 is the radius. So I'm missing the vertical side, I'm missing the y. So give me a Pythagorean theorem, but this time you're going to be doing subtract, right? Because it's not the hypotenuse. So 5 squared minus 3 squared. And you're probably getting a 4 in your calculator, right? Okay, we didn't do positives and negatives because that was just math. So what kind of 4 is this? A plus or a minus 4 because of its location vertically. Positive, right? Because it's above. The height is above. Okay, I'm asking you to find the cosecant of this angle, and I realized I forgot to give you the abbreviations because you know how we always do 3 letters to represent sine, cos, tangent. Cosecant is cosecant, like that. We just use those 3 letters. And then secant, when I write that, I'll just do sec, like that. And cotangent. So those would just be your abbreviations for those items, okay? Those functions all get 3 letters. Okay, so here we go. Here's my answer. The cosecant of this theta is what fraction? And you're picking, what is it the opposite of? Which function is it the opposite of? Sine. Sine is the YR, so we are the R and the Y. Okay, 5/4. Everybody remembers this is a trig value, so you always need to write the trig function, the angle equals the trig value. Okay, so now we have a quadrant 3 angle. Quadrant 3. Okay, here's what I told you. The secant of this angle is -20/7. So which 2 letters have I given you if I've told you a secant?
R and X.
I've told you an R value and an X value. Okay, oh, R value negative, that doesn't even make sense. It's 20. You can't have -20 on the R value. 7 is the X value, but that doesn't make sense of where it is. So what should that be? That should be -7. So it's not that there was a -20 and a +7. There was actually a +20 and a -7. But in math, you don't write the negatives on the bottom. So if I give you a fraction, I'm not going to give that fraction to you like that. To you, that's why you have to be so good at the location stuff. Okay, and then we're going to need that side. So give me a 20 squared minus a 7 squared, Pythagorean style. Are you getting a decimal answer? Okay, you can't write decimals. So you always have to stay exact. So if I want to stay exact, I'm just going to leave it as a radical. Okay, we did that last year as well. Just leave it as a radical. If it doesn't go exactly, just leave it. And this is a y value, so tell me what kind of y value is this going to be because it's location-wise. Is it a plus or a minus y? It's a minus because it's down. It's a y value down. Okay, so here's my answer. I want the sine of this angle. So it's going to be what over what letters? So you're really Bless you, bless you. So I need a y value and an r value. You can always go back also to Astica. I'm in a t quadrant, so this sign value should come out as a negative fraction. Okay, I feel like I'm going to just skip this next one. I don't see anything really new on it. So let's go to the next page. Okay, this one's a little bit harder because I didn't tell you which quadrant. So you have to figure out the quadrant now. So we've added up another level. So here's the info that I can read from the question. I know that secant, whoops, don't write what I wrote. Secant is negative. This is a negative fraction. And it tells me sine is less than 0. So it's also telling me sine is negative. Okay, so here's my info from the question. Here's my Astica analysis. So secant is negative. Well, secant negative, what's the flip of secant? Cosine. So really, forget that. Cosine is also negative. I'm going to just go with that. So where is cosine negative and sine negative? They both have to be negative. Which quadrant are you going to pick? Pick that one? Okay. So now we've picked angle, or quadrant 3. Okay, secant. So do you know which letter is the 41 going to belong to? Which letter is the 9 going to belong to? R. And which one are you going to pick? X. R and X. We always know this side is positive. There's the negative on the 9, which is why I had a negative fraction, because there's one of those was negative. It wasn't the 41 though. Okay, I think this is very similar to the last question we kind of did. Can you give me a Pythagorean on that? Does it square root? This time it did square root though. I got a perfect 40 on the square root. Negative 40. Are we good with picking the negative on that one? Location-wise. Okay, and then final answer. Cotangent angle equals, and then which letters are we going to go with? What over what? So the x over y? X over y what do you think I'm going to do about the situation where I divide two negatives? I'm going to cancel because also look at my Astica stuff. Tangent is positive. And then tangent being positive means cotangent is going to be positive. Okay, 2 more to go and then we're done. Oh, no, 3 more. Sorry, got your hopes up. A point on the unit circle in quadrant 3 has an x coordinate of that. Okay, this seems weird because every single other triangle always had 2 of the sides missing 1. This question only gave me 1 number. So what am I missing? There's something else that it's giving me that I didn't put on my triangle. Can anybody spot it? Because you always need 2 sides. The radius, somebody said? Why? What do I know about it? Exactly, good. You know what? That's a candy worth. That was good. You remember that. Are you now? Ah! Don't hit Maya. Okay, so it told me this was on the unit circle, so what do you know about that unit circle? That's 1. Okay, now here's my question for you. Do you guys like fractions or do you want to avoid them? Because I could do this 2 ways. Like we could go 1 squared minus 7 over 25 squared, work with fractions, or I could get you to avoid them if you wanted. Let's avoid them. Let's blow it up. Okay, if I blow it up to avoid fractions, how many, you know, like when you're on a computer and you drag an object to enlarge it? That's what I'm doing, okay? How many times bigger do I want to make it? I'm going to make it 25 times larger. So what does that do to my fraction? Now it's just negative 7 there. What does it do to 1? 25. Do you want to do Pythagorean with these numbers instead of fraction stuff? That looks better, right? Okay, so give me a Pythagorean value. Okay, 24, that's good. Did you analyze plus minus stuff? So I'm going to do a minus because it's a down vertical. Okay, cosecant theta equals, and then I need you to get me a fraction value. Do you know which letters you're going to find? Cosecant is the flip of sine. Sine is a. So I need a 25 and a y value of negative 24. I'm going to just put the negative in the front though because it's, again, it's awkward to say a fraction divided by a negative value. Okay, that's the answer. I just want to talk about something else it could ask. It could say, what's the y coordinate on this? So the y coordinate is not negative 24, because I'd have to go back to the original. So what is the original y value? Can anybody give me that? What would you do to go back just to the original y value? Divide by 25. Just shrink it. So it'd be that fraction, okay? So that's another way they could ask that question. They could say just what's the exact y value? So it'd be, what is this vertical side? Another way they could ask a question like this is that they could give you these coordinates, this x, y, and you have to decide if it's on the unit circle. So how do you determine if something is on the unit circle? If this squared plus this squared does what? Equals 1. That's something on the unit circle. Okay, I feel like the next example is a duplicate of that kind of idea. So last one here. Okay, cosecant. Can you replace cosecant with a fraction? And can you replace cotangent with a fraction using your XYRs? Okay, how did this go? Did we get the correct replacements? Good, good. Okay, how do you simplify fraction divided by fraction? What do you do with that process? Fraction, don't divide by fraction, you times and flip, right? Fraction division times flip. Okay, what happens here because of the y's? Anybody see that? Y top bottom. So now is r over x, and does anybody know the name of that ratio? It's a flip of cosine, so it is the which one? Secant of, and then theta. There you go. That's your answer. Okay, please be careful. One thing I noticed, I was always using thetas, but if your question says something like sine x, you use x as a variable. But if I use sine theta, just be careful to what the variable is. Because if they use something as a variable, you have to continue that same variable, okay?